Hi. Today we're going to talk a little bit about the cyclist activity badge for the Cubs. Now, this is quite a comprehensive badge. As you can see here, there's two slides here. Um, Rather than just going on a cycle event, which some people seem to think cyclist is for, it actually is quite more substantial than that. It's to do with maintaining bicycles and doing emergency repairs and things. For example, we all know when chains fall off our bikes, a lot of kids don't know how to repair those. Even though it's very simple, and they end up sort of stuck somewhere and calling their parents and asking them to come and pick them up. Whereas you can learn very quickly how to replace a bike chain. Um, and obviously, in terms of punctures and pumping up tires, that's just to make sure that tires don't break down over time if they haven't got enough air in them, and a whole bunch of other things too. Safety measures in terms of helmets, high vis, things like that. So things that you wouldn't really perhaps think about if you were just running a cycle night with Cubs. You could actually think about that, and that's part of the badge. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about what other badges also may be ticked off by doing the cyclist badge, um, and perhaps parts of the Chief Scout Silvers Award as well that you can earn towards with this. So first off is regularly use a bicycle, which is the right size for you, with a cycle helmet. So again, this is the bit, because some people can, you have to have a bicycle to do this badge, unfortunately, really. Although, if you can do it in teams and one person brings in a bike from each team and then they take turns on it, that's a good way if you're from a less well-off sort of part of the country, or a scout group that has, people in it who are unfortunately lower down the economic spectrum. It's a good way to make sure everyone is included. Um, so, and in sort of the aspect of that, if there is someone in your group who does not own a bicycle, then I just say remove this regularly part. Your own discretion to do that, really, as a leader. I'd say, as long as it's in the faith of the award, it's in spirit of it, which I think it is, because in my opinion, you should try and hold as closely as you can to the actual requirements of badges. But if there's actual things that get in the way of it, like economic instability or family problems or whatever, then it's not worth not giving someone a badge because of something they can't control, right? Anyway, so a cycle helmet's the important bit, knowing how to put one on and why we put one on and not riding without one. Second, we have show you can clean and oil a bicycle, show how to pump up tires and mend a puncture. This is something that a lot of people just skip when they do this badge, which you shouldn't do, because this is all very important stuff. I'm sure we've all had it when we've seen, perhaps as a kid or even as adult, where people buy bikes and they use them a couple of times and they shove them in their garage, and as the kids grow, they get new bikes, but those old ones just rust inside the garage, and when the time comes to get rid of them, they are worth nothing, and they, rather than being reused, they just get scrapped. And of course, part of Scouts is reduce, reuse, recycle, and environmental concerns and things. So if you can instead pass on and reuse a bicycle, it's much better. And of course, if you don't oil and clean your bicycle, eventually it just breaks down different parts of it. And if you're cycling on a road, your bicycle, just a part of it just breaks or snaps, it can be quite damaging to you personally. Of course, it's not just personally, but also like economically speaking. If you only sort of can afford a bike or whatever the case might be, and it breaks and you can't afford another one, then you're sort of stuck. Especially if you've got to work and sort of ride to work, right? Pumping up the tires and mending a puncture is very simple to do. You can get puncture kits online for nothing that the Cubs can use. And for pumping up tires, you just need basically one bicycle pump, which everyone should own really if they have a bicycle. Because obviously you need to pump up tires, otherwise they get deflated and start getting teared and damaged. The learning of new skills in relation to this does count towards the Art Skills Challenge Award. Um, Additionally, I would say that if you were wanting to do part of the DIY award with this, you could. I'd say that using of tools safely, that a puncture kit would count as tools. But again, you couldn't actually tick off all the DIY badge, unfortunately, only just the first point. Um, Personal safety potentially. There's no actual part of personal safety that's related to wearing helmets and high vis and things, but um, it's certainly related, so you can do the two at once, perhaps. Although personal safety has a lot of things that you just can't cover off with cycling alone, so bear that in mind. Number three, explain why you must lock up a bicycle when you leave it unattended. Basically, it's just thieves. Simple as that. There's nothing in relation to any award, really, in terms of this. Um, it's just to do with common sense, particularly. Um, you could perhaps think a little bit actually about the home safety activity badge. Part of that is to do with protecting your home from crime. So if your bicycle is visibly not looked up and it's nearby or inside your property, your home, then it may encourage more people to commit crime and take it. So obviously that corresponds to a certain part of the home safety activity badge. And if you want to do something like tell them, who to call, the police or whatever, if your bike's missing, then that would count as part of the home safety activity badge. Make a poster to promote road safety. This is part of the artist activity badge, which is making a poster of some kind, but equally it also counts towards our skills for doing creative activities. So that actually covers off a couple of different things. You may even be able to link this to something like the Community Impact Award, although that's quite difficult to get, a Community Impact Award, so it would have to be part of a lengthy campaign about road safety. Um, Alternatively, you may be able to do something in relation to the U-Shape Award too, but that's something for you to look into individually. Finally, here we have for the slide one, talk to your leader or clubs about safety measures you need to take when cycling in bad weather. This is to do with just reduced friction, reduced visibility, things like that. It's fairly simplistic. Again, it doesn't really play into any of the badges, but it's important to know. Moving on. We have this slide. It looks a bit complicated, but really it isn't. Just choose either road safety or off-road safety and complete all the points under it. So road safety is just showing you can mount and dismount your bike properly. Easy enough to do in a hut, not difficult to do anywhere really. Show how to keep your bicycle in roadworthy condition. Why is it important? This is pretty much covered in the previous slide. Tires, oiling and cleaning. I'd say just if you mention how to put a chain on a bike, that's the most common thing to happen that knocks out a bike if they don't know how to fix it. Things of that nature. They're testing the brakes as well, things just whatever might be the case. Explain why it's important to use lights and reflective clothing, especially at night or even if you're just in dark clothes. When you're on roads, a lot of kids ride on the pavement because it's a bit safer, and a lot of people tend not to use the pavement nowadays. But when you're an adult, and even when you're a kid, technically bicycles are road vehicles. They're not for the pavement. Um, so if they, sort of following the rules fully, they have to ride on the road. And if they're a kid without reflective clothing or lights and they're wearing just like a dark clothing like jeans or a hoodie or whatever, that's a recipe for disaster. So it's really worth emphasizing the fact that even though reflective clothing is a bit goofy, if you perhaps do an example of, turning off a light inside the hut, making a dark room, now having someone standing there without reflective clothing, it sort of shows, how hard it can be for a car to find them, right? If they're turning and the headlights aren't pointing directly at them. Um, this actually counts for parts, I believe, of perhaps making a safety code of your choice, which is part of the personal safety activity badge. If you make this some kind of, safety code for bicycles, and you relate that in, that would count towards part of personal safety. Go for a short ride in a safe place to show an adult you can ride safely and confidently. You can do this in a group with other cubs, as long as you keep it absolutely safe, obviously. Um, yeah, that's not difficult to do. Off-road safety, this is the second option if you don't want to do road safety, you want to do it somewhere a bit else. Like if you want to take away from the car aspect of things and go to a public park of some kind, that would count for off-road safety, and that's one less thing to worry about as a leader. Find out about safety equipment used for off-road cycling. Um, this will be other particular things to bear in mind. Personally, I'm not a big cyclist, so I don't know much about off-road, but you can look into this. So you're able to control your bike over different types of terrain. Different types of terrain is quite a broad thing. I know some people, there's sand, there's dirt, there's road, there's, hills up and down and things like that. So if you can incorporate a number of different things in there, then it gives you an idea. And it's actually the case that sometimes when people go on sand for the first time with the bike, they just fall over and hurt themselves immediately. So it's worth thinking about. Find out where in your local area is safe to cycle off-road. This may be part of the local knowledge badge, which is to do with finding out a bit about your local area. So feel free to link that into local knowledge. Finally, plan and carry out a 5 mile cycle ride off-road. So 5 mile is the requirement here, which sounds like a lot, but in reality, if you're doing it with a group or they're doing it with parents or whatever, then it's easy to do. One thing I'll mention that I think I didn't is that there is a road safety activity badge, so it's part of the road safety sort of portion. If you select that for the cyclist badge, if you look at the road safety activity badge, there's a few things you can throw in there as well to your little your safe ride, and that way you can actually get that activity badge basically for free as part of the cyclist badge. That's everything really for this. There's not much in terms of ways you can link this into the Chief Scouts Silver Award beyond the sort of skills and the poster aspects of this. You could potentially think about sort of following a trail could count towards the Our Adventure Challenge Award if you go on an off-road trail. That would count towards it. If you think a little bit about preparing for your activities and what bag they might have with the drink and things, that would also count for part of Our Adventure Challenge to make sure that they're safe and they've got everything with them. I think that's fine as well. If you do it in teams somehow with these various different parts and the previous slide too, then that may count towards Teamwork and Team Leader Challenge Award. That's everything for now though. Hopefully that was useful. Bye bye.